Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, I hope that you are having a wonderful day and you are ready for some Computer America with, hey, I know that last week you all missed it dearly, but obviously Thursday, Friday, we had off. Our boss was so kind as to give us those days off to be with our family, and by the boss, I mean me, and I'm very gracious to myself. So with that being said, we're back, and obviously last Friday of every month is dedicated to our friends over at Popzara. Nathan Evans joins us to talk all about just hey, whatever is in the news and more. And I know that he actually lamented before the break that he wanted to talk about the Cybertruck, which I know it's been like 6 days, so it's completely old news. It's like ancient history, but yeah, hey. It's going to be okay. We have a lot of different topics, and there's a lot I wanted to talk about, so I'm looking forward to this. But first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including the show notes. It will have past shows, future shows, all shows, and it will have links to our guest website. It will have links to any articles that we talk about, links to just about everything and everyone, so you could definitely check that out. Now, let's see. Of course, Computer America, twitch.tv/Computer America. We have another tumultuous month coming up because normally we do Monday through Friday, but with the end of the year, December, Christmas, New Year holiday is going to be is traditionally our longest holiday of the year. So we'll be off the air, or not off the air. We'll be doing best ofs for like 2 weeks, and then of course right after that, CES 2020, which we'll also make mention of later in the program. We'll keep you updated, but just know. Hey, it's going to get a little bit messy. Now with, okay, so all that out of the way, let's go ahead, bring on our guest, and hey, just have fun with it. So joining us, as I said before, Popzara magazine. If you want anything about movies, culture, video games, comic books, movies, reviews, anything like that, Popzara has just about anything and everything for you. So I will say, the managing editor, longtime friend of the show, and always happy to talk to him, Nathan. Welcome back on to Computer America. How you doing?
Ben, how's it going? Happy Cyber Monday. And I know you said we can't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I didn't get a chance to talk last week because of the holidays, which some of you people celebrate. But I did want to say, Elon Musk and his Cybertruck. I can't say no to that. It looked like something from like Star Fox from the Super Nintendo days.
That was a pretty widely disseminated kind of criticism, was that it had a low polygon count. It was it was like the low resolution version, or the low. Yeah.
Look, all I'm saying is that when your real life physical truck makes the Game Boy look like a processing powerhouse, you got problems. Look, I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk. The man tries. I'll give him credit, but let me put it this way. Elon, if you're listening, and we all know you are, you and John McAfee are out there smoking a togie out there. But what I'm saying is, you got to make something look cool. You can't do that. And if you're going to have the hubris and I'll just say the cyber balls to claim that it's unshatterable, do some testing before you do it.
So,
Come on.
and this is something that I think that a lot of people didn't see the other video, but there was another video, kind of behind the scene during the press event where they did show the shatter resistance of the glass, and the way they had it set up, like they had like braces and they had clamps and they had, like essentially the thing was like really braced, and they chucked the same ball at it, the same iron, ball at it, and it did not shatter, but then again, it was braced and like it was not on stage.
Here's the thing. I got two thoughts and we'll move on. Okay, two thoughts. One. If I told you that your brakes on your car, they work 90% of the time, that's not good enough. And second of all, this man wants to send you into space. So if he can't get a shatterproof glass presentation working on terrestrial ground, I'm not going into space in anything that Elon Musk builds. And if you want to go into space, go ahead, but leave me as the executor of your will, please. Just you're not coming back.
You will be third in line, is what you're saying, for the space travel. You will not be the first in line.
I'm not smart enough to trust Elon Musk's spacecraft. Look, again, I'm glad he's doing SpaceX. I'm glad he's doing all this stuff. I'm really glad he's doing, but you have to. I don't know. I'll just leave it at this. You have to have some serious issues to trust this man about going into space.
So, and of course, for a longtime listener, he's in the chat room, and he made mention that he'd rather take an old space shuttle into space than, obviously one of Elon Musk. I will say that he just unveiled like his latest spaceship, and I forget what it was called. It was not like the cyber spaceship or anything like that. But anyways, it looks straight out of like a 1950s like comic book. It looked like kind of the.
I do like those designs. I'm not going to lie to you. Like the 1950s pulp designs. Sucker. Those things are not good. Those things would never fly in space, and they probably wouldn't get off the ground. But they look cool. But I'll tell you what, though, there's got to be a button if you're gonna look. Let's just grant you're going to be in space at some point, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be an Elon Musk thing. There needs to be a button that says "Do a barrel roll" because
Star Fox. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what?
I
don't know, man. I laughed. I had a good laugh at his expense. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
he still has billions of dollars.
Yeah, he's not going to cry himself. If he does cry himself asleep, it's going to be on a pile of money, and we can all take some comfort in that. And of course, there's plenty to pick on there. But as I said, that was last week's controversy, and in the age of the internet, this. That's like, oh my God! It's almost like we're archaeologists digging up old news.
That's like dog years. Like that was so like literally, not to quote like one of those singers. That was so yesterday.
Absolutely. So I will say before we get started with our actual topics that we do that are much more timely and much more kind of time sensitive here, I do want to say that Popzara magazine. Before we get started, we should kind of talk about what you guys what you guys do over at the website, and anything recent that you obviously I'm sure that if you've read the news, Frozen 2 I think is about to be hit with like a monopoly strike in South Korea or something like that. Frozen 2 seems to be doing well by Disney standards. So what do you got going on over there?
Okay, first of all, I love following box office numbers. It's actually been sort of a fetish of mine for the last few years. I like looking at. There used to be a website called Box Office Mojo. I don't know if you've ever been there. It was great. It was fantastic. It was like Sabermetrics, but for box office. You could cross-pollinate everything. You could look at it. Mm-hmm. Then they were purchased by IMDb, which is purchased by Amazon. And if you've been to Box Office Mojo in the last couple of weeks, it's been destroyed. It's been decimated.
I did not know IMDb was purchased by Amazon. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's. I might be wrong on some of the facts, but long story short, someone absorbed somebody else, and it's no longer valid. Really? There's a competitor website called By the Numbers, which is pretty good, but it's not quite up to par. So it's really hard for me to go back and really look into the numbers the way I used to. But by all accounts, Frozen 2 is doing gangbusters, and this is despite the fact that the music is pretty mediocre, and there's no Let It Go song. They've tried, not to cross-pollinate myself, but we had a review for the video game Just Dance 2020, by the way, which our good friend Matt Piscatella over at NPD says actually sold really well on the original Nintendo Wii. So think about that.
People are dusting that thing off. That's pretty incredible.
Are you kidding? It never got dusty. But I'll tell you this. they released a track from Frozen 2 on Just Dance. Now you've seen Just Dance. It's a psychedelic.
Yeah,
wonderkin of
they kind of
silhouettes.
give you like this very colorful avatar on screen that mimics exactly what you do, and of course.
It's not really a game. It's just something you dance to, but it's fun. It makes a lot of money. And it's fun to watch. It's really creative in how they do the dancing, which is the dancing is much more creative than the music because the music's terrible, but people like it. But they released a track for Frozen 2, and I thought to myself, this is the worst possible cross promotion I've ever seen. This song you cannot dance to. This is not a dancing song by any stretch. It's just, how can we make this work? And the answer is you can't. And you can't polish a turd. And the music in Frozen 2 is pretty bad. But the music in all Disney movies has been really, really lousy.
But so Frozen 1 obviously had Let It Go, and that's that's still, I think, in everyone's mind. But you have to admit that the music is only one part of it. There are cute characters such as the reindeer, which I'm trying to remember the name.
It's the music, Ben. It's the music.
I'm saying that there's a lot of different ways for Disney to monetize Frozen 2.
They've tried though. That's the thing. If you remember the first Frozen,
I think Olaf's doing well, like as a character.
Yeah, he's okay. I like this. Is that the snowman?
Yes.
So the unmeltable snowman. But look, all I'm saying is that when Frozen first came out years ago, they really thought it was going to be the snowman and the wood creature. I've never seen Frozen, by the way, so I can't comment. But which is sad for me because I'm a big animation buff. But the deer or whatever it is, those are going to be the big characters. I mean, think about it, man. Anthropomorphic animals in a Disney movie. What can you lose? But that didn't happen because the music took over and it was all about the two main characters, Elsa and what's the other one's name?
Elsa and Anna.
Yeah, and which I'm just going to say it. I'll say it. Bleep me if you want. But there's a strong undercurrent of LGBTQ support with those characters. And that's really taken off with a lot of the fan base. And a lot of people have either established in their own fan fiction or whatever, but that these characters are somehow closeted lesbians, which is interesting for Disney because they don't really say no. And I think that's fascinating. And I think I'm not supporting it. I'm not against
I think Disney's taken the same approach that Sesame Street is taking with Bert and Ernie, and they say, are Bert and Ernie gay together? And at which point Sesame, the creator of the puppet said, no, they're puppets. It's not really within the purview of kind of.
By the way, I apologize. I misled you. It's not By the Numbers. The website is just called the-numbers.com.
The Numbers. All right.
Yeah, it's Box Office Mojo. Rest in peace. You are amazing. This new thing is no. By the way, according to the numbers, the Frozen 2 has already grossed $739 million worldwide.
Is that all? Is that it? It's only reached $1 billion in about 5 days.
Yeah, I was going to say in America, it's right about to cross 300 million worldwide, 450. This movie is going to be huge, huge, huge. The animation looks absolutely stunning. And I want to say this right quick. One of Disney's biggest movies of the year was the Lion King redo. I don't call it a remake because it's basically just a carbon copy clone, but with all the fun.
Just new graphics, right?
Inferior graphics. And I'll tell you why. You can make things look crystal clear real if you want. But at the end of the day, animation is movement and design. And you look at something like Frozen 2, even if you don't like the characters, it looks great. I mean, it's fantastic. You could do things in animation. And when you take all that power and you reduce it into something that looks live action with none of, what I mean? It just doesn't work. I mean, Disney can make $1 billion all they want. And I want to say this, final thoughts. When you look at box office for these Disney movies, I want you to put a giant fat asterisk next to it because that's not a measure of how successful the movie was. That's a measure of how much money it made. A successful movie is more than just money. For example, The Last Jedi, 2 years ago, made $1.5 billion, but it was very unsuccessful because it may have torpedoed the franchise. So I was on something the other day, and I compared bragging about The Last Jedi making $150 billion.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, it was very successful. I compared it to the Donner Party. That's like the Donner Party having a feast on the first day. Oh, we got enough to go around. Okay. Tomorrow, though. It's like,
yeah, but we're still talking about the Donner Party. But I will say that whatever damage the Last Jedi did to the franchise, I will say that in a little bit more timely, obviously with Disney Plus, The Mandalorian seems to be just bringing it back. I mean, people have been crazy about that.
People seem to like it, but keep in mind they're not seeing the whole series. They're seeing
not yet.
Disney's dripping it out.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because they're really pushing the free trials and everything. And I'll go say this: everyone I know who's seen The Mandalorian, every single person, all 5 of them who've watched The Mandalorian, have all said it was better than Last Jedi. That's not a high mark. And part of the reason it's better, let's just say it, is because of Baby Yoda. You see, you look at you. No, I'm.
He is meme worthy. That's right.
Name one memorable character from these new Star Wars movies.
Jar Jar Binks. Wait, that was the best trilogy. I don't know.
Can't. And it's been verified by toy sales, everything. There's no memorable characters in the new franchise.
I would say like Kylo Ren, but I mean, even that's just like
they got rid of him. Remember, they took off his mask in the second movie, smashed it up, and then they had to bring it back because nobody likes seeing Adam Driver's little pop-mark face. You see, they don't know how to market these movies. No, I mean, he's a great actor. He's fantastic. I love Adam Driver, but the best actors are never very pretty. I'm sorry. You got to have some scars. Show that you've been through life. You lived through lightsabers. But my thing is this: when they first showed the poster for Rise of Skywalker, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't even try to hide the fact that Emperor Palpatine was back. They didn't even try to hide it. Yeah. You know what they did? This is Disney. Okay, this is something that boggles my mind. That this biggest company in the world owns Star Wars. They put a picture of the toy on the poster because they couldn't get Ian McDiarmid to photo. They couldn't get a photo of him, so they took a picture of an old Return of the Jedi toy and they put that on the poster. This is Disney because Last Jedi toys did not sell, and you can make a movie and make $1.5 billion, but if there's no residual tie-ins, which by the way, I'll segue to this. I looked at the Black Friday sales. I'm not a big fan of Black Friday, but I looked at the sales. Mm-hmm. The biggest selling toy was Frozen 2, by far. This movie's moving toys left and right.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and hey, why don't we go ahead and just kind of lead off with that, because today is, of course, Cyber Monday, and I've seen the projections. Something about Adobe. Like, I guess this is the time of year when Adobe kind of brushes off, kind of says, all right, everyone else step back. I have all of the analytics for this one. And Adobe said that they're spending, let's see, I think they said that sales from last year are up 20%. Sales during Black Friday, they were also up, but in-person shopping was down X number of percentage, but online shopping during Black Friday was way up.
Yeah, you have to distinguish between those two because there's less physical feet in the stores, and that's good though because it means less violence. Because you can sort of gauge how successful Black Friday was by looking at the body count. Because when you look at Black Friday, there's always someone died, someone got trampled, someone got maced with pepper spray. We didn't really see that. We saw a few shootings and a few tramples and a few fights. But generally speaking, I don't think anybody died this year, which is a plus.
That's good. No death during the holidays. That's certainly wonderful. But it does show that, and obviously I've been following this for a number of years when Cyber Monday, kind of first became a thing and people were starting to say it like the new buzzword. But essentially it was just all about Black Friday. And then I think it was 3 years ago, they said this was the first year that Cyber Monday is going to outsell Black Friday. And I think now we're coming to terms with the fact that shopping online is just kind of what you do. If you want to turn it into an event, if you want to take your family, if you want to have the Thanksgiving dinner and then say, you know what, guys, let's all go out and go, shop midnight deals or whatever. If it's an event, you can go do it. But it seems like more and more people are just opting into staying home and being lazy. And that is the new way to shop.
I don't know if lazy is the right word, although I really would.
I'm sorry, not lazy, convenienced. They are being convenienced.
Well, here's the thing. Two things about this. I'm going to send you a link here. You can share with your listeners if you want. But I do another podcast called Safe Spaces. And on this episode, I was with our mutual friend Herman. Mm-hmm. We talked about Black Friday, and I kind of go into a big flashy rant about the purpose of Black Friday and why it's diminished. But long story, TLDR short, basically people don't need to squeeze themselves into these retail stores anymore. Not necessarily because it's online shopping, but because everybody's in the game, right? Mm-hmm. So Black Friday, you don't have to wait till 12:01 Friday to shop. These deals have been the whole week. They've unleashed that valve the entire week, 2 weeks before. They were even calling it Black Friday, which is disingenuous. They basically turned Black Friday into the Hanukkah of shopping. Like instead of 1 day, you get 7 days, right? And like Black Friday does not start on Monday. It is not the celebration of online shopping.
Yeah.
It's like Black Friday on a Monday is not Black Friday. They call it that. Walmart called it that. They said Black Friday starts now. It's a Monday. But anyway, so why on earth would you wait until Friday to do something you could do on Monday? And that's the thing. They've spread out. It's the basic law of economic surplus. The supply demand exceeds supply, and so that's why the technical numbers are down. But I bet if you aggregate all the numbers together, Ben, it's probably higher than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just not called Black Friday.
There's something this year that I guess I'm just paying more attention, but it has to do with the fact that I guess my email was flooded with Black Friday, and of course, we were approached by companies. They're like, "Hey, we want you to review this and promote it during Black Friday." I was like, we'll review your product and let you know if it's good or bad, but we're not going to take part in the whole promotional thing unless you pay us a lot of money. So we didn't do that, and I will say though that like the day before, and then like even like the day before, like the Wednesday, of course, before obviously Thanksgiving, there were a couple of promotions, and a couple days before that there were a couple promotions. The day of Black Friday, oh my God, what a waste of money all these companies are doing, because I got hit with, where I would, and I have a lot of spam filters set up. I still got like 15 to 20 kind of on an average day.
You got those too, didn't you?
Like I got like
waste.
Yeah, exactly. But like the day of, like Black Friday, I got like 200 emails, and I was like, this is just spam at this point, and no one is going to pay attention. Like,
yeah, could we do a PSA?
Sure.
If you're a company and you're sending Black Friday emails on Black Friday, you need to fire your PR company.
Yeah,
because that is terrible. Like that.
They all got mass deleted, is all I'm saying, and I don't know.
But it's worthless. I'm sorry. You're better off waiting till like Beige Tuesday. Like, hey, still got some money? We got some scraps.
I heard it last night on the news, and they said that companies are, and of course there's Black Friday, and then it was like Small Business Saturday, I think was something they were trying to push. To kind of,
you can't do it.
Yeah, and then they were saying that that companies are trying to rebrand it as Cyber Week, and they're trying to extend deals all throughout the week this week.
That's happening. Like I said, I called it the Hanukkah of Black Friday, and I don't mean any disrespect to that. But what I mean is, I have my best friend growing up was Jewish, right? And my birthday is really close to Christmas, so I kind of got screwed.
Yeah, here, this is for Christmas and your birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, miss.
Exactly. You get 7 days, and so that's the problem. You need 7 days. You need 2 weeks. They need to come up with a snappy. Something Cyber Week, that's stupid. First of all, don't use the word cyber, because everyone's using the word cyber, like cyber truck, cyber this, cyber sex. Screw that shit. Screw that crap. What you want to do is beep. What you want to do is you want to find a snazzy, nice name that you won't be embarrassed by participating in, that you can hashtag all week long. And Cyber Week is stupid. So I don't know. We got to come up with something. We'll get back to you on that.
We will save the internet from these deals, but I have to say that and I was asked this by all my friends, all my family, and I don't know if you have anything that you want to put here, but I will say that when they're always like, should I buy this? Should I wait for that? And really, when it comes to certain products, like, and I'm not saying you should go out and buy a car on a whim, but when it comes to things like cars and washing machines, I'm always a fan of like October, when they're, trying to remove their inventory to get ready for the new inventory. But when it comes to tech, like, tech's actually really darn good during, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So
I guess, but here's the thing. That's like, you can go to California, you can pan in the woods, you can pan for gold, you might find a nugget. Or you could just wait and wait 200 years and just, buy a ring at Macy's. But look, here's the fact. Best time to buy a TV, Super Bowl, tax season. Best time to buy a car, tax season. Best time to buy a lot of stuff, like you said, appliances, summertime, whatever. Like, you can get the best deals throughout the year because different manufacturers have different repletion rates.
Yeah.
When they get rid of the old and they get rid of the new. It's seasonal. It's like anything else. What Black Friday is the dumping ground when companies want to push all this crap out of their stores to make room for next year's crap. And they need to do this on Black Friday. post Thanksgiving because of their earnings reports, where they can go ahead and claim massive sales and whatever. It's all tied to their stock options, and this has been going on since the Depression.
Right.
I mean, this is nothing new. So,
but kind of unfortunate, but I think that's, like you said, since the Depression, so this is going on for almost 100 years now, and I have to say that they kind of get the new inventory, the new stuff before Black Friday, so that they can sell you the the higher price, newer stuff, even if it's on quote unquote sale. But that may not be the best time to buy all sectors of the industry. It may not be the best time to buy, but it's a decent time to buy for some sectors.
It can be, but again, you really got to search though, because if you're a savvy consumer, and I apologize, but I'm not going to reveal all my secrets here, because I don't want people screwing me up, screwing my system up. But if you know how to shop, you can get these deals all year long, and it doesn't even require a lot of know-how or technical savvy. You just have to understand how retail markets work. And I'm not talking clipping coupons, right? Coupons are irrelevant. You could take a piece of paper and write 50 cents off cheese, and your grocery store will accept it. The purpose of a coupon is to get you in the store, right? That's it. Once you're in the store, they got you, which is really what Black Friday is all about. And I got one final thing. And that episode I sent you, if you listeners want to listen to it, you can hear me rant, and I do drop a few S-bombs. But I'll say this. We had a story a couple years ago when, for example, if an advertisement says, hey, we got a Nintendo Wii or a Switch, whatever, that doesn't mean they're going to be getting Switches in for that day. It means they have Switches now. They could sell you a Switch right now and make the exact same amount of money, maybe even more, by selling you it now. But they stockpile it because they can advertise it, because they want the frenzy. You see, the frenzy is valuable. The frenzy means, I'm going to wait in line all day. I'm going to get a Switch. I'm going to Switch. And by the time you get to the Switch line, it's gone. What are you going to do? Okay, I guess after 9 hours of waiting, I'll turn around and leave. Nope. You came here to shop.
Do you think that to some effect, that's why online shopping really, seems to be almost like the better option? Because obviously, if you click on something, you put it in your cart, you check out, and it says this item is no longer available, boy, you've lost like 20 seconds, and you miss the deal. Yeah, whereas otherwise, you're in the store, you're probably going to buy something else or just leave mad.
Well, that's the thing, though. They depend on this unholy union of you desperately wanting to buy something and be thought cool to your children and earn, buy their love, and two, the primal nature of human existence, which is flight or fight, which we get to engage in these gladiatorial combat things that harken back to our old days as primates. We get to engage in savage combat, climb over stores. I mean, we get to live in a zombie movie or Mad Max for a couple hours, right?
Right.
We get to go quick. We get chaos. And where else are you going to do that? A soccer riot? This is America. We don't like soccer. So we do Black Friday. We're going to climb over people, step on people, mace people. Seriously. That's amazing.
And I honestly believe that a lot of that is overhyped. Like, it certainly happens, but I don't think it happens. Like, I'm still firmly in the camp that humanity is mostly good. So
yeah, we are. But humanity is also dumb, in that we take one thing out of context, like you said, right? We take one thing out of context, and that extrapolates to everything. We see some Walmart in Hoboken, whatever, where people are climbing over each other, and they say, "Oh, humanity's doomed. This world is crazy." No, you're exactly right. By the way, go read Steve Pinkerton's "Better Angels of Our Nature." Violence is going down. People are killing less people than ever. Everything's down. People get along. So increasingly, we turn to these rare instances, these outliers, as proof that humanity is doomed. But the reality is, it's not. It's entertaining. And frankly, people complain about Black Friday madness. You're going to miss it when it's gone. It was entertaining. George Carlin talked about this stuff years ago.
And trust me, I'm always down for a good George Carlin quote. But I will say that I saw one segment on the national news that I wanted to, or that I just whenever I have a problem with the news, I usually take the remote, I pause it because thank you DVRs, and I rant about it, and my entire family just looks at me and shakes their head and goes, and then we hit play again. But I ranted about this one because they were talking about what they called were Grinch bots, is what they called them, which I don't think anyone called them other than that, other than the producer of the network. But I will say that they were Grinch bots. They were bots that were looking for deals, buying these items very quickly, and then reposting them almost immediately for a higher markup resale value.
Oh yeah, I've done that myself.
But that's my thing. It's like and they were talking about cybersecurity, good passwords, protect your credit card, check your statements. I was like, you're confusing a completely legal, time-honored tradition of scalping to a cybersecurity threat, and the two have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, because they don't understand. Like I'm surprised they didn't call it cyber squatting. Look, the fact is, I blame tech journalism. Okay, I blame tech journalism because tech journalism is only second to video game journalism as piss poor journalism. There's about as much integrity in tech journalism as there is stories in pornography. Okay, if you find it, it's rare. It wasn't meant to be. So you have this amalgamation, you have this cross blend of idiocy, ignorance, and they're proud of it. They like to say, "I'm a geek. I'm a nerd." You're a stuffed shirt who went to school for an MBA and didn't bother to learn what cyber squatting was, and now you have to play catch up to these little people online. Yeah, it's wrong all the time. Like if you watch tech news on TV, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
The only thing they get more wrong than tech news is politics. They never get it right.
It's
all advertising.
It's kind of like that anecdote that if you've ever seen the news cover an area that you are familiar with, like let's say they cover the oil industry and you've been in the oil industry, and then like you listen to them kind of speak to it, they say like you'll sit there and go, they don't know what they're talking about. This is so off the mark. And now apply that same thing to almost every category, across every industry. Like they have a surface knowledge of everything and not a lot of real hard facts about it.
You're right, but in their defense, and I have to preface this with a defense, is that sometimes when you're so educated or so learned in one industry, sometimes you yourself get prejudiced, right? For example, I mentioned gaming, for example. A lot of people who quote unquote know a lot about video games know nothing about video games. They know about their favorite brand. For example, I hear all the time, like speaking of Cyber Monday, Sony was offering this deal. It said only on PS4. Here's a PS4 for $200 and we give you 3 games. One of those games was on PS3. It was The Last of Us. And I got into this Twitter spat somewhere else on Twitter where someone is saying,
"You get into Twitter spats? Oh no, Nathan!"
Yeah, but it's only when I know I can win. So
you never win.
No, that's true. So basically, it's when you know you can't win is when you have the most control. And I'll say this: the guy was like, "Oh, it's the remastered, so they're technically right." Well, no, they're not technically right. The same game is available. I see what you're doing, but when you allow companies to remap language, like Amazon, I complain about this one a lot. Amazon says, "Oh, if you get Amazon Prime, you get music for free. You get free shipping." It's not free. You paying for it. They say it. If you buy Amazon Prime, you get it for free. No. So people who do this, they fall into this trap. They get used to the verbs because you know what it is? It's like sports team. It's like, for example, I don't know anything about sports. I know a little bit about the Kansas City Chiefs. And when I lived in Boston, I knew a lot about the Boston Patriots. The New England Patriots. But when I leave, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I think that the chat room, has it right for it said moving the goalpost. It's it doesn't meet that threshold, and then someone else comes by and says, "Oh, of course it does because of X, Y, Z." You're moving the goalpost.
You said a surface level knowledge base, right? Well, these goalposts are on wheels, right? They just roll back and forth wherever you're at, and that's a side effect of having. That's also a side effect of having so much media. Is that if I want to look, your dad, Craig, is old enough to remember PC Magazine and all these magazines. Do you know how they made their money?
I am too. What the heck?
You called me a magazine. I'm a website. I never correct you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not a web magazine.
I know, but you said you like it, so then I never saw it.
I do like it because it gives it more class. That's like calling Playboy like entertainment.
You're a publication, digital or otherwise. You're a publication.
Hey, you know what? My roots are in paper. So I'll say this. And they are, by the way. But look, ask your dad about this. The way that used to work is that you have PC Magazine, you have Fishing Magazine, Golf Magazine. You're like, golf? Go to any old doctor's office. They got these things. Hunting Digest, Duck Call Monthly. So what they do is, if I make duck calls, I'm not going to advertise in Time Magazine because the Venn diagram of people who are interested in duck calls and read Time Magazine is very small. But if I advertise in Duck Magazine, the Venn diagram of people who want duck calls in Duck Magazine is a big, fat purple circle.
Yeah,
100%. And that's the way it works now too. So in some respect, when people like you and I who are knowledgeable about the tech industry or movie industry, I mean, I'll be honest with you, with what I do with Popzara, I have to be a little knowledgeable about a lot of things. So, which makes me insane. It really does. Help me, please call help. But the fact is that when you hear somebody say something wrong, it infuriates you a little bit because you know better than them. But then you have to think to yourself, well, but what's their main focus? They're not here to tell me everything about the industry. They're here to report on something. And sometimes with some journalists, having an outside look that's not so incestuous is good for it. Like having New York Times talk about the gaming industry's toxic culture was good for it up to a point. Having the movie industry talk about Me Too, reporters talk about Me Too was good for the movie industry. But at some point, though, it can be destructive. And so, like anything in life, it's balance. You need to have a balance of input output. And yeah, but when I hear news reporters talk about tech, I laugh sometimes.
And really when it comes to tech, I think that's a big thing. Is like, when I see a tech person on the news and they go, make secure passwords and, don't click on links. I'm like, yeah, it's shallow, it's surface level knowledge. But it's correct. Of course you can go in deeper, but you would never go in deeper because the audience would completely tune you out. I think it's just when you kind of lead people astray. That's when I get by calling these bots that go in, just like with online venues with tickets and the ticket bots and things like that. To call them malware is just it just got to me last night.
It's like watching those TNT shows or whatever, or watching like NCIS, and you see people hacking.
Zoom in, enhance, right? Yeah,
enhance. It's like, oh, they got two people on a keyboard. It's like I got to create a firewall so I can get my IP config in my database floppy drive. You just
they're mashed on the keyboard and like HTML, and it's like, oh yeah, he's hacking the mainframe. Like, yeah,
it's like stone soup. It's like if I just throw enough buzzwords at the screen, it will sound good. And you got to admit, there's probably someone sitting there like laid back in their barca lounger, like with a big belly hanging out, with a pizza slice hanging out of their hand, going, "That's authentic." They don't care. It's like feeding hamsters. It's just like, oh, the words are in my brain. I can understand it. So yeah, so you got to understand the audience is probably not that picky.
Yeah. So I will say, if we would like to kind of jump topic here, there's another one that this one also gets me kind of heated, and it has to do with 5G. And I know what you're saying. 5G, how could that get you heated? I said this the other day to my family, and Nathan, I don't know what your opinion on 5G is, and I'm sure we're going to hear it, but I will say that 5G is becoming one of those things, like almost like 3D TV, that they're hyping it up so much. I have no hope that 5G is actually going to make it to the masses.
Here's the thing about 5G. No one really knows what it is. The way the industry has sold it, they're selling it like it's the second coming of internet. You could do all this with 5G. I can do all that shit now. I can do it right now. I can do it on 3G. I don't need 5G. And they show people in a classroom using 5G. And I think to myself, you can get a faster internet connection right now, wired. You don't need 5G for any of this stuff. And you know what? And the children won't go bald from all the radiation. No, I'm just kidding. But look, yeah, and that's the thing. And the opponents of 5G are all touting it as the second coming of Chernobyl. Have you noticed this? It's gonna roast the birds. The children are gonna.
I haven't heard of any of the ecological impacts, and I don't even know what the.
Go online.
Well, I take that back. There was one guest we had on the show that by virtue of being on the show, we talked about something completely unrelated, and then I got added to his personal mailing list of tech journalists that he now forwards 5G is sterilizing our babies or something like that, like stuff like that.
Well, there's probably a little truth to that. I mean, there's some anecdotal evidence.
Don't microwave your babies. I am completely for that, but otherwise, there's no proof. I looked into it.
Microwavable infanticide is not recommended by Computer America. Put that on the box.
Hot take.
Literally 2 minutes but not
hot potato.
Okay, look, enough of this baby roasting. Okay, it's a holiday.
So here's what I wanted to say about 5G was that time and time again, like they put a 5G hotspot in a stadium in like Boston or New York or something like that, and they put it there, and the reach was only good enough for like the front gate where everyone kind of amasses to get into the venue, and then the 5G signal was so weak on the other side of the stadium that people couldn't do it. They just had to rely on the ancient 4G LTE gods. And that just kind of shows me
We do
that
that now, but we do that now. Like that's nothing new.
no,
Like
no,
look
no,
at
no, no. But here's my thing: is that they're talking about, and you have this article here from Engadget, and it's showing kind of like the 5G coverage of like 5G coverage, and it's all over. No, that coverage map is so balarky because I bet that they are fudging the numbers by saying if there is a 5G hotspot within a certain zip code area, whatever, we're going to mark it as a 5G covered area. No, let's see, I think it takes like 6 times as many antennas in an urban area to give it 5G as it did 4G LTE. I have not seen 6 times as many antennas go up in major cities.
That's because it's a lie. Like we went through this before. Remember at CES, Sony lied about 5G. They put a sticker on. It's the look. Every time we talk about this, or when I talk about this with everybody, I have a very easy explanation. It's the organic food fiasco all over again. And I'll say it again for your listeners. Organic food doesn't mean it's better for you. Doesn't mean it was grown without pesticides. It doesn't mean any of that crap. It used to, but then they said, you know what? We can sell more horrible food by calling it organic, not by raising the bar and therefore raising standards, but by lowering the bar and lowering standards. And that's what this crap is. And you see this all over the place in every segment. For example, your PlayStation 4 Pro, is it 4K? Technically, yes. Is it real 4K? No. Same with Xbox. Same with anything. Your Wi-Fi, you have a Wi-Fi on your laptop right now? How many bands does it have? How many gigahertz speeds does it have? Does it have 5.4? Does it have 2.4? Why do they have 2? Because one doesn't work all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the same with 5G. They're going to over promise, say it's the next coming of Christ. It's going to cure cancer, might actually cause cancer, but it's another issue. The fact is, they're going to over promise because people don't understand any of this crap. Nobody, not even the PR people. That's how they claim plausible deniability. And they're going to say 5G is doing this, and it's not going to. It's just faster internet using a different brand. The reason there's so much controversy is because China beat it to us for the most part. China's been on the forefront of this crap for a long time. They're ahead of us on this. That's why you have to look at stories like the Huawei and all of this espionage and intrigue about Chinese companies doing this and that, putting spyware in your computers. It's all about this because America slept. They got bogged down on this nonsense net neutrality garbage that stopped development on everything for about 5 years. This is what happens, by the way. I've been on this show for 5 years? I've said this since day one. Net neutrality was bogus, stupid, garbage.
And that
nothing.
is one area where we actually do disagree on. And so,
well, you're wrong, but I can't.
I know.
But what I'm saying is, it did exactly what the naysayers like me said it would. It stopped development on this stuff. So instead of developing these technologies, instead of leading on this, we abdicated this to the copycats over in China who reverse engineered, who didn't have any restrictions. This is what happens. And so now when it got plugged in, we're 10 years behind this stuff. So China can come over and they can claim patent rights to 5G technology. So who's gonna instigate it? You know what's funny? I think this story talked about T-Mobile.
Yeah.
T-Mobile is losing their leader. They're losing, what's his name, Ligur or whatever? The guy who always wears chef hats.
Yeah. They're because T-Mobile and Sprint are merging, and they're spinning off like their low cost subsidiaries to be the fourth new competitor, which really isn't. But yeah.
No, it is. But it's basically good news for Sprint. So I mean, it's okay for. I wonder what. Sprint
it's great news for T-Mobile and Sprint because they get to cut off the less money making part of their company and just keep the meaty, gooey center of high paying mobile users.
Well, I'm actually in the area where Sprint's really focused on the Kansas City area. We have a lot of technology is centered around where I'm at in the middle of the country. Google Fiber started here, Sprint's here. All this because we're in the center. We represent the nexus between left and right. If you go to California, here's the thing. You go to California, you've been to trade shows, right?
Oh, of course.
You go to CES, you've been to CES. You notice something at CES. Your cell phone doesn't work very well at CES, but you're in the middle of technology nirvana. You have all these companies out there blasting their Wi-Fi connections, blasting their connectivity, and yet cell phone service is spotty because network congestion. 5G is promised to alleviate some of that network congestion. I'm going to go off on a little segue, but follow me here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the stories I wanted to talk about last week was about Google Stadia, the streaming gaming service.
Mm-hmm.
Full disclosure, one of my editors has it, has been using it. His initial response was very positive. I don't know if it's going to be as positive when he's finished. I can't reveal the review, but it's coming. If you do me a favor, go ahead and look at reviews for Google Stadia. You'll notice two things. One, people talk about how Google underdelivered, didn't live on promises because of network congestion. Every time they tested this stuff, they were in the same room with the server. So if you're in the same room with the server, it's going to work great. Same with 5G. You put 5G in the real world, like any other technology, it gets loaded down with congestion. It's not going to work as well.
So,
like the example you gave.
And just real quick, if I recall about the whole Stadia thing, was that they promised, and Google promised 4K 60 FPS video game stream to wherever, but instead they delivered variable or 30 FPS on 1440p resolution at best, and then it was of course upscaled. And Google kind of said that we provide the platform. It's up to the developers to optimize it, optimize the platform or their products for our platform. Essentially, Google said that's the developer's fault, not our fault.
It's called bus and throwing them under it. Because Google's responsibility isn't just to promise the world and blame it on developers. A good product manufacturer, someone like Nintendo or Sony or heaven forbid even Microsoft, their job is to navigate these developers through this technology and provide a platform. Google, like they do everything else, they put the technology there. They don't assume any responsibility for it, and that's what happens. Going back to 5G, this is a problem. 5G. Let's just say this for the listeners. 5G is faster internet, mobile internet, right?
Right.
That's what it is. That's what it is. If you go back in time about 10 years ago, look at all the claims for 4G. Go look at all the promises for 4G. They're promising the exact same thing. Like you go back to DVD and you compare it to 4K stuff now, people promise the same thing about DVD. Oh, it's HD. It wasn't. But they said it was. It's this. Same thing. They just make the same promises over again because at the end of the day, what 5G is going to do is exactly what new technology always does. It's going to be better and faster. Now, will it cause cancer? I think all technology causes cancer. I think there's enough evidence. No, I do. I think exposure to radiation probably contributes to a lot of ailments. And I think that's a fact. Do I think vaccines cause cancer? No, I don't. But what I'm saying though is that sure, it might cause a little cancer, but that's not a reason to ban it. Maybe it might. You don't need, if you're bald, you don't need a hat. But look, I'm making light of this, but the reason I'm doing this is because we don't really know anything. We don't really know anything. They're so dishonest about how they're rolling this out.
I will say that 4G and the promises for 4G were kind of, they were definitely overstated and they really didn't deliver. I will say that 4G LTE was actually a very good improvement. I think that when the technology came out and it was widely available, like it's hard to find a person that doesn't have access to 4G LTE. Almost everywhere I've been, like 3G is like, I feel like that's when society starts to fade away. And if I don't even get 3G, then I am officially in.
I will say
last
something.
Century.
I will say I'm a little prejudiced about this because I was actually doing app development when 4G rolled out, and I remember the difference between, like you said, 4G LTE and 4G whatever you call CMDA. Where what we're saying is, and I know this is like the dark ages, but you could either use your phone to talk or you can go online with it. You couldn't do both, right? And I can tell you,
was there also a dial tone?
Yeah, like for the old people, it's like, did you know they still make rotary phones? But look, it's true. But look, long story short, we were doing app development for a project that I cannot say on this program right now has gone on to become very successful in other people's hands. But I will say this. I remember when we were looking at this because it basically came down to this.
Mm-hmm.
Do we store all the information locally on the machine or do we farm it out to the cloud, right? Or, is the ping going to be fast enough?
The cloud before the cloud, right?
Yeah, it was before the cloud. It was a server. You ran a server. And so basically, like, for example, do you store recipes on a device? Do you store data on a device, or do you rely on an instant connection? And the truth is, at the time, we needed to do both. But the revolution of 4G at the time, especially LTE, made it possible. And I maintain that 4G was so transformative because of it was an immediate improvement, not just faster, but it was acceptably fast, that you have programs like Facebook and Netflix and WhatsApp and Snapchat and all this stuff. I think these programs are wretched and I think they've destroyed humanity, but they've been very successful, right? And you have you have Google Maps on GPS replacing GPSs. People really don't use Garmin or TomTom anymore. They use Google or they use Apple. Their phone is good enough. In fact, it's better. And so That's what 4G did. When I see the promises for 5G, I don't see anything like that. It's just faster, which is good enough. It's good enough to be faster.
I
But you're
was,
promising space technology.
well,
It's not going to do that.
When I saw the prompts of when I saw the speeds for 5G, like there was actually a point to it where early on I was like, this is going to be amazing because this is going to mean that you don't have to run cables into people's homes anymore. If you wanted to get, let's say, your own, like, and you can do, and this is what I've said before, if you want 5G in your home, the best way is to go to your phone carrier or whoever supplies the back end for it, buy your own 5G antenna for about $700, pay your phone company, and that's about the best and only way you're going to get reliable 5G internet in your home. And it prevents you from having to run a cable throughout your house or a cable into your home. It would replace dedicated cables as we know it, if the connection was actually good enough and they didn't oversell it. And I think that they did.
Because they're basically promising what Wi-Fi promised 10 years ago. That you could do this. And then all of a sudden we had this secondary market of mesh routers, of extenders, of all this stuff to
Extenders,
solve problems.
yeah.
And that's not going to change with 5G unless these lasers unless these like if you have a Bluetooth, for example, you have a Bluetooth speaker in your bedroom and you have in your phone, you walk out of that room far enough, the connection's going to fudge. You can put your hand over the antenna, it's going to fudge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bluetooth was transformative though. Despite all its flaws, people applied it to game controllers, to headphones, to all sorts of stuff. Bluetooth helped change the world. Would you agree?
Yeah,
It
sure.
moved the needle.
It finally
It's not
killed
as
that
good.
pesky 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Yes.
Kind of a little bit. There's still us out there that keep the dream alive.
Mhm.
But the fact is, no one's going to sit here and say Bluetooth is the best. It's not the most accurate. Doesn't sound the best. Like those Apple earbuds, those AirPods you get, don't sound as good as the $10 ones you plug in your headset. They just don't sound as good. But they offer convenience that makes it worth it for some people. Same with 5G. It's like they haven't figured it out. They're just going to promise the organic thing. They're going to say it's bigger and better for you. But what's going to happen is, Ben, some innovator out there is going to find the one little tricky thing that 5G can do that the other things cannot do, and they will make billions off it. And that's exciting because companies like Verizon, T-Mobile, all these companies, they're not innovative. They're not smart enough. Someone sitting in his bedroom right now listening to this show, call me, is going to figure out what
Did you just ask gentlemen in their bedrooms to call you? Sir, I have to put my foot down on that one. Excuse you.
Well, you're no fun. But look, the fact is, Ben, someone is going to figure this out. Some kid, and I'll be honest with you, I'll just say, I hope it's a young lady, and I hope that young lady becomes a superstar. But anyone can do this.
Right.
Someone's going to figure out what 5G can do that 4G could not do. I don't know what it is. I'm not smart enough. You don't know what it is because you're too smart. So what's going to happen is somebody's going to figure this magic trick, and they're going to say, "Wow, I never thought about it that way."
I really do believe it's going to be in the arena of medical technology because more medical technology is relying on faster, more data, and a steady connection. And I feel like in short distances, 5G can definitely do that. It's just when we're actually when the every person is going to benefit from that. I don't know. That's not a consumer technology, and that's not a consumer point of view. I will say though that we should probably jump topics just a little bit because we've hit like 2 and we have like 5 minutes left.
But these were good topics.
I've had plenty of fun. Oh, and by the way, actually, one more thing I wanted to mention. I just heard about this today, and I don't know what that phenomena is, where like you read about something and then you never really paid attention to it, and then it comes up, and it happens all the time. It's something that people can go out there and Google. It's called the loudness war. We'll include a link to it in the show notes, but it has to do with music produced, and like you said about the headphones, with the Bluetooth headphones, and how people are pulling out their phones to listen to music. This loudness war is the idea of why music has changed since the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s with vinyl and singles and things like that.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with this too. It actually bugs me.
Yeah,
I'm
to
actually
where we are today, because people use lower quality speakers and they're very, you're not listening to an album, you're jumping from artist to song to, different genres. The loudness war is something that is actually very relevant to that conversation. So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, there's that one. Let's go ahead and bring up some of these other topics. And I wanted to, you know what? We have like 3 minutes, or I'm sorry, like 5 minutes left. And unfortunately, we probably won't get a chance to talk to you again. I think you are, Nathan, if you don't mind, I think you are actually our last show before we go on our winter break.
Closing you out on a low note.
Exactly. But I will say that CES 2020, I think let's go ahead and save that whole conversation for that, and, kind of predictions, what we can expect, and what, we're going, what Computer America and Popzara are going to do for that.
Yes.
I think that our last conversation for the day, though, I wanted to talk about Sony, because I've been looking at cameras and, the camera industry, for an industry that by all means should probably be dead thanks to smartphones. It's very interesting.
Not at all, by the way. I disagree with that. I disagree.
Well, and I'm happy I'm wrong, because Sony
me too.
And Sony and Nikon seem to be having a thing. Let's talk about cameras to wrap up today.
Okay, first of all, let's get the racism out of the way. These are Japanese companies. Of course, they're going to be great at cameras. See, the same way certain companies are great at ebook readers and stuff like this. There's a cultural thing attached to this. And the story you're talking about is that Sony overtakes Nikon to become the number 2 camera company after Canon, right? These are all Japanese. Canon's Japanese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's a longest associated stereotype, but totally true. And I don't think the Japanese would mind that at all. They put a lot of money into this stuff. They've developed cameras and whatever. They've just replaced the film necessarily with the lenses. My glasses, I just got a new pair of glasses last week.
Yeah.
Nikon lenses, by the way.
Really?
I love them. Oh yeah, because my eyes are so bad. I need to get these suckers slimmed down. And so
you need that 30x zoom. I hear you.
Exactly. I wish I could. So, by the way, I will not wear snap glasses. They look stupid. But here's the thing.
Craig, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
he wears snap glasses. But there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but Craig's different. He's an outlier. So what I'm saying though is that people said digital stuff will kill. Like, for example, why do we need Kindles? Right? Why do we need Kobo readers? We have phones. Well, we need them because of phones aren't good enough. They don't look as good. They're not as pleasant to the eye. They don't do what a dedicated Kobo could do. They don't do what a dedicated Kindle can do.
Mm-hmm.
Same with these cameras. You talk to a professional photographer who has a $10,000 Nikon lens, one of those telescopic things. He will laugh at you if you tell him to use an iPhone. iPhones have gotten really good. Google phones have gotten really good. A lot of these things have gotten really good, but they're not as good as a dedicated camera.
Right.
And even if at someday they get parity, there's something about a dedicated device that's built for this. You hold this. This is something that's built for a job. It's a tool. It's not something that's designed to open up a can of fish and play Angry Birds on. This is something that's designed to get work done, and the quality is going to show on that. Our good friend Herman is a big camera enthusiast. We talk about this all the time, and he told me he says the same thing I do. In fact, he convinced me that the rise of great cameras on phones is great for these dedicated devices, because that way they can justify their high price. If you buy one of these, a single lens on one of these cameras is going to cost more than 5 iPhone X pluses.
Yeah.
And you feel it. Like it's a work tool. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's fantastic. I'm really happy for Sony on this one. I'm glad, because
there will always be a space for, like you said, dedicated devices, because even though smartphones have speakers, so therefore everyone has a speaker in their pocket, or Bluetooth speakers are very affordable. There's something about the form factor and the way that they're made that like for speakers, it's about how much air can they push out, and as much as you want to build it into other things and make it compact and easy to carry, just traditional speakers are still considered some of the best speakers on the market. I think cameras are going to be the same way, where you can squeeze it down thin, kind of thin everything out and put it into other devices, but a truly dedicated device is just going to be better.
We could just say this though. There's also the psychometric view of it, is that there's aesthetic value. I ask a lot of kids today, I don't know if you're the same way, but if I ask you to raise your hands up, do you have a watch on your hands?
I bet you a lot of people wouldn't unless it's like a smartwatch or a Fitbit or something like that. But yeah, no.
Fitbits. Look, all I'm saying is, you ask people what you
Google
ask young
just
kids what time
purchased
it
that.
is.
Don't poo-poo that. They just spent a lot of good money on that.
I'd like to say, Fitbit, we loved you while you were alive. It was nice knowing you.
You
So
too, Pebble.
your time, yeah, Pebble. Your time on this earth is not for long. Now that you in the Google family. But what I'm saying is that a lot of kids today don't have watches because they have phones. And when it's always funny, I get a big kick out of this. I'm a troll. I say, hey, what time is it? And they got to fumble for their phone. And I just look at my watch, like, oh, there it is, right there on my wrist.
You know, but at the same time, if someone asks me what, like, I've become so practiced, I think most kids are too, they can whip out their phone almost as fast as you can turn your wrist. It's these kids are very, very good at
challenge
that.
accepted.
So, Nathan, we are just about, and we're not going to have a quick draw competition. Nathan, we're flat out of time. If people want to find out more about you, any recent reviews, highlights, things that you would really recommend people go check out?
Yes, absolutely. Go read popzara.com. There's some new podcasts, there's new stories, new reviews. We didn't talk about it, but we're going to have a review for The Irishman, hopefully sometime this week. It's a big, long movie. Go watch it. It's really good. It's very slow, but it's very good. It's a lot of fun. What'd your dad call it? A cornucopia. Popzara magazine. Not on paper, but oh well.
All right, and yeah, and by the way, of course, in the chat room, follow Nathan Evans on Twitter. I already do that, so I'm sure he's talking to everyone else out there. So everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning into the show. We are flat out of time. Thank you so much. Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Everyone, until next time, bye-bye.
Happy holidays. Bye.